This program is brought to you by thepodcastfactory.com.
To get a transcript of today's show, plus all future transcripts emailed to you, go to offthechainshow.com.
Prepare yourself for the uncensored, nothing held back, no BS reality of how business and life really work. Doberman Dan is off the chain.
Hey, welcome back to another edition of Doberman Dan Off the Chain.
Yeah.
Jonathan, you sure you want me off the chain?
I've been waiting for you to get off the chain.
Well, do we have the explicit rating already, or
it's fired up and ready to go, man?
Okay. So, how many of the people on the other shows you produce cuss regularly?
Well, we keep Ben's show at an explicit rating. You know what? Every other show, aside from the show that I'm partners on, everybody has potty mouths. So they're all explicit ratings, except for the real estate show.
You know, my excuse is I was a cop for 12 years, and most of those years I worked in the inner city. And so I learned really quickly that when, just like in marketing, you got to speak your prospect's language.
Yeah.
You got to know your prospect and your customer really well and speak their language. So in the inner city, when you come upon a situation and you talk like, greetings, dear citizens.
Salutations.
Greetings and salutations. I am going to require that you now halt all aggressive actions towards yourselves and others. They either ignore you or look at you like you got three heads.
That reminds me.
When you show up.
Have you seen Judge Dredd? Isn't that the way that they used to speak in Judge Dredd? Is that where Sandra Bullock was in that movie? The robots all spoke that way?
They're like RoboCop.
Yeah, funny.
You need to cease your aggressive actions at this time. Dude, they don't even understand you when you show up. Look, y'all, you got to cut out the shit now.
Right.
All right? We're not fucking around. You got 30 seconds to stop, or we're taking all your asses to jail. That they understand. So
loud and clear.
Pure repetition after 12 years of that, I guess it gets embedded into your neural pathways. So, yeah, I guess I truly am off the chain if we have the explicit rating.
You certainly are. You certainly are, my friend. So normally I would ask you what we're talking about today, but you seem to have flipped a script on me.
Well, I didn't plan it that way, but it does lead right into what we're talking about. We're going to talk about, this is somewhat impromptu, but we're going to talk about the launch of this podcast. And, we should probably precede that by maybe explaining that I initially launched a podcast on my own on iTunes, and it was mostly, a few of them were me running my mouth and ranting about God knows what, and then most of the other ones were interview format. They were long, they were about an hour, some of them were even longer than that, and had to break up into two shows, and it was a lot of work for me. It was fun. Anyway, started to get some traction, and then just workload I couldn't keep up. And so it had kind of died out. And that's when you and I started talking and started doing this one. So this is a new iteration. And as of this recording, we actually haven't launched yet. So by the time people are listening to this, obviously we've launched, unless aliens have invaded. And,
That's funny.
But Yeah, I mean, you're the expert on this stuff. I would love to chat about the launch of this podcast.
Well, let's do this because we talked about it in the other show, actually the last show, because we're probably recording this 2 months before you guys actually hear it, which is something interesting we can talk about how we do that. But let's just kind of talk about what happened with the old show, because last show we said that we were going to start being more conversational, so I didn't prepare anything at all. Okay, I didn't.
Oh, that's awesome.
So
that's
we can
when the
talk,
best stuff happens.
Yeah. So first off, let's talk a little bit about the original Doberman Dan show. I mean, when you started that, what was your objective? What did you have in mind? What was your goal?
The objective was to produce some cool shows to attract some new people into the Doberman Dan fold, so to speak. And, you know, it was kind of launched a ready, fire, aim fashion, which I do most of my projects.
Yeah.
Sometimes that works out okay. Many times not. In this case, I guess it worked out okay for a while. Yeah, I did research on it. I read about starting podcasts. I spoke with Ben Settle about it and ignored his advice.
Yeah.
Which that's twice now I've ignored Ben's advice, and he was so right about those two things. And basically what happened was it was way more work producing that show than I ever expected. So fitting it in became difficult. That's what happened, Jonathan.
So tell me a little bit about that. You said it was way more work, because I think most people have the idea that with a podcast, you can just hit record and get a show, just knock it out really quickly and get it up on the air. But is there more to it than that? What was the workload that was making you crazy?
Well, that's what I thought too. Like, hey, Apple gave me GarageBand for free when I bought this computer. What else do I need? I got a computer, I got GarageBand, I got a mic, I got a voice. So, hey, I just hit the record button and go. But that's not the case. When you have guests, you got to set up guests. My God, that was who knows how many emails would go back and forth between me and assistants and all these other people in the middle to set up a guest. There's the actual recording of it. There's all kinds of technical things. I mean, you and I right now we're talking on the phone. People don't know this. You have your equipment and recording going on your end. I have my equipment and stuff going on my end. We're talking on the phone. So now you get the raw, unedited recording. Now you have to edit that. Somebody has to edit it. There's stuff that happens, you want edited out. Somebody burps or farts. We usually don't leave those in there.
This isn't the Howard Stern show, huh?
Just to show that I've not mentally matured past age 13, I would find it highly amusing if we or other people producing podcasts would leave that in there. But yeah, you got to edit that shit out.
Yeah.
You got to edit shit out when people say the word shit if you don't want the explicit rating. All kinds of the dog freaking out. I mean, welcome to chaos right now. I mean, I got a bathroom remodel going on. So there's 3 people who are only speaking Spanish in the house. Well, actually shouting Spanish. One of them is my wife. I got salsa music blaring in that end of the house.
Nice.
Occasionally that stuff bleeds through. Then I won't bore people with the details. And then there's all the other technical details of getting the recording hooked up with the syndication program. You got to do all this weird stuff with the MP3 to embed images and words and yada, yada, yada. It's a lot of work, Jonathan. I'm preaching the choir here, aren't I?
I find it funny because I don't know what most of that stuff is. No, I'm just kidding. But we have a team. It's the podcast factory. So it ain't Jonathan doing all that stuff. It's a team that handles that. We have a team of professionals that does all that work. But yeah, the scheduling was a new one for me because you're the first person that I'm working with that wants to have regular guests on the show. So I'm making a new part of the program to make sure that I can take care of that. That recording tech, sure. That's a headache. But with GarageBand, like you said, it's easy to get that recording. The editing, yeah, man, that was the thing that surprised me. when I first started doing a show, I did it on Blog Talk Radio, and all I did was basically call in by phone, and Blog Talk Radio played a recording of my phone call. And it was easy, and it went into iTunes and everything, and it was at that quality, at phone call quality. So I didn't know that when I got off of Blog Talk Radio that there was going to be editing that I had to do inside a GarageBand. And that other little bit that you gave away, and if you guys have ever wondered why the Podcast Factory shows always sound so delicious, it's because we are recording on our own computers. We have isolated sound, we have mics and pop filters and shock mounts and all this stuff that when you're first starting out, you might not know you need unless you're one of those geeks that maybe, I'm one of those geeks with software, so I can't talk too much. But anybody that likes tools and stuff, you'll buy all the tools before you need them. But if you're just recording right out of the box with your mic, the sound's not going to be the same as what we have here. And not only that, the engineering, right? You said the engineering is a problem. That's why you hire a professional. I don't know. I didn't go to school to be an audio engineer. And I didn't get into podcasting to have a new job. You know what I'm saying? So hire professionals for that stuff, the posting and prepping the MP3s. I didn't even realize all the stuff that you have to put like images on your MP3 and tags and all this stuff. It was really hard for me, Dan, when I got off Blog Talk Radio and I got into all these very same issues. And I actually had a show fail, right? So I got into a partnership with the guy that I'm still partners with, but this actually killed my show because he thought it was great. Let's record a podcast. Sure, he would get on with me for, 2 hours or whatever. We would record a few shows. But those 2 hours were only the beginning. I mean, there's all this stuff behind the scenes that took another 2, 3, 4 hours per episode. That was ridiculous. So, I mean, if you want to do a podcast, I would say hire professionals to help you. I mean, isn't that accurate? Is that the Ben advice that you got?
Oh, definitely. Listen, it's a way longer learning curve than most people think. Just post-production alone, okay? To do this right, you don't just bang out some recording, on a conference call line, and throw it up there. I mean, I guess if you want to do it half-assed, but, if you do it like we're doing it, post-production alone is a freaking art. I mean, I know a dude who spent damn near $500,000 just to learn that at the Berklee College of Music in Boston. I mean, you have to know all kinds of stuff to do that right. Yeah, hire professionals. Anyway, that's why I got my original podcast going, and then it petered out because I just way underestimated this stuff. By the way, something else I've learned, even though I didn't, we're not supposed to be, I did give away a lot of secrets about podcasts.
You did.
I wasn't planning on giving away all that stuff, but something else I learned, it was way easier for me to do this when I was just interviewing guests. Because it was pretty much, you get a good guest, you just turn them on and go. And occasionally you ask some questions, but if you get a true expert, then it's really easy. If you just ask a few questions, at least it was easy for me.
Right.
When you gotta, carry the whole show yourself, I found that more difficult. That's why after the first episodes we recorded were produced, I listened to them and I thought, oh my God, do I suck? Because I'm like, dude, I need to smoke some weed or something before we
loosen up,
record,
man.
Or have a couple shots of vodka or something. Yeah, because I sounded really stiff, which didn't seem to be a problem in the previous show when I was just interviewing people. I mean, I had awesome guests who were the experts among experts in what they did. So, geez, all I had to basically do was hit the record button and let them go. This different format here.
Yeah, no, and we're still working on the guest thing because I think I like the idea of guests too. I think that it's always good to have another point of view on the show, somebody else, some other experiences, some other stories, and not only that, but let's talk a little bit about strategy, right? Because we talked about some of the tech stuff that you guys can be looking forward to if you want a podcast, or maybe outsourcing. But let's talk a little bit about strategy, because you said that when you started your show, it was a ready, fire, aim kind of thing. So what was your strategy then going in and launching the podcast?
You're giving me way more credit than I deserve. Strategy?
Huh?
Come on, man. It's like, let me throw a bunch of stuff against the wall and see what sticks. No, I didn't know. I just didn't know. Now, you understand the strategy. There's a strategy for launching. There's a strategy for timing on what content gets launched and posted. There's a strategy for getting subscribers and listeners. There's a strategy for getting ranked on iTunes. I didn't know any of that. So, that was not good. That was definitely a handicap. Whereas you launched, for example, my friend Ben Settle's show, he partnered with you to launch that show.
Yeah.
And you guys did it right. And you got a lot of traction really fast. You got in iTunes New and Noteworthy. So that's the way to do it. My strategy was, I'm just going to produce a bunch of content, which I think is good. Hopefully others will think it's good. I'll promote it to my peeps, the people who follow me on my blog or people in my marketing Camelot. And that was it. I think that was all the thought I gave it.
Simplicity. Elegant. Simple. Launch and push some traffic. I like it. I mean, that's the way we want it to be. And thanks for the kudos on the Ben Settle show, because I remember when we were first starting the show, it wasn't too long after that you got onto iTunes as well, and we were competing against you. And I was thinking, I'm going to fuck Dan up. He's gonna want to work with me. little admission there.
It didn't take much to do to fuck my show up. I really appreciate the people who listen, who came onto that show as listeners, and the people who have been following my blog who started listening to it. I really appreciate them for that. But it's not a good strategy when launching a podcast. It goes back to, Jonathan, goes back to what we just said about the production aspect. Hire a professional who knows how to launch a podcast and promote it.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm not claiming to be a pro at any of that, but I was in a little competition with you since you decided to go it on your own. So that's an admission on the air. We're being candid, folks, but it's all for the good. Because I was a fan of that show. I listened to all your shows, and I think you had a lot of good stuff there. But yeah, there is, and we can talk about it a little bit. There's a strategy. I mean, the first 8 weeks that you're inside of iTunes, that's going to be where you're going to get your biggest bump, because that's where you get to New and Noteworthy, and it doesn't take much. I mean, that's our goal for this show. And I've done 3 shows in a row: Making Agents Rich, Antipreneur Ben Settle show, and even that short little stint I did with Jim Yagi. He hit number 8 on the New and Noteworthy. And it's inside those first 8 weeks that you get that privilege. And what happens is you build up momentum the first 3 weeks, which the way to do that is just by pushing traffic and by strategically getting subscribes and reviews. And by about the 4th week is when it starts kicking in. If you're in the New and Noteworthy for 4 weeks, by the 4th week, usually Apple, and look, I don't have any, I can show you some data, but I can't say that this is definitely the way it works. But I feel like iTunes and Apple do like a traffic match. You push 500, they give you 500 because they put you up in the new and Noteworthy till you get that many downloads, so that they're giving people a chance to shine. And that's really the spot where you want to take advantage. And I mean, some of the things that you want to look at, if I can give away a little strategy here for our listeners, is subscribers within the last 24 hours, downloads within the last 24 hours, reviews. Reviews used to weigh heavier. I'm not sure if they're still weighing as heavy, but our goal for this show, and we're already out of the New and Noteworthy when this goes on, but our goal is to get 10 reviews within that first 3 to 4 weeks so that we can stay at the top of New and Noteworthy for the following 4 weeks and get whatever bump of traffic and new listeners and you guys who are tuning in who might not have known who we were before that.
Exactly. I like the new format that we keep this shorter than how I was doing my previous show. Actually, There's another ready, fire, aim mistake.
Yeah.
I did not have a length for the previous show. When I would invite a guest, it would just be like, you know what? I think I'm going to keep asking questions until I feel like, the energy waning and things starting to peter out.
Yeah.
And I haven't checked for a while, but some of them probably went pretty long, over an hour.
Wow.
And I like that this is a shorter format. I think it's more appropriate for people's attention spans online. I'm sure you have a reason for that, too.
Well, I'll give you my reason for it. And actually, Ben fought me on this when we started. And his show was really boring for about, 15 shows. Not really. He had some interesting stuff, but an hour-long show is too freaking long unless you are super entertaining. So respect to the people on the radio, those hosts that keep you on for 4 hours a day. Those people are super talented, and that's why they're paid well. The rest of us, we might love ourselves, but our market might not think as much about us. So what I found is in a lot of practicing was I did hour shows when I first started way back in the day, and I did 30-minute shows and 20-minute shows, and I just found that around the 25-minute mark, people were left wanting more, and that was the way to get them to come back for another episode, because if you bore them, they don't come back. Also, one other thing, and I don't know how scientifically accurate it is, but when you're studying online, studying copywriting, studying video sales letter and that kind of thing, the length is like 15, 20 minutes, right? That's what people are using to make a sale. So why should a podcast episode be any longer than that? It should be just long enough to get people what they need and get them to take action.
Good point. And now that we've gone about 20 minutes, I would like to pontificate for the next 50 about why we need to keep a podcast short.
Right. That's exactly how it works.
That's great stuff, man. This was totally unscripted, but I think based on my experience, we shared some awesome tips for anybody who's considering starting a podcast.
Sure. So what do you have next time for us, Dan?
Well, speaking of leave on wanting more, next time, I'm going to talk about the fable of the frog. That tells you absolutely nothing, doesn't it?
The fable of the frog. Okay. Looking forward to it. So this is a wrap for... I was going to call it by the wrong name already. It's the Off the Chain Show, Doberman Dan's Off the Chain Show, episode number 10. Thank you guys for tuning in.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for tuning in, and remember, to get a transcript of today's show emailed to you, go to offthechainshow.com.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.